German economy is the #1 economy in all of Europe. I say this constantly, and I really believe this, that Germany has the potential to be Trump's favorite country because we speak the same language. Your economy is doing well. It's the best economy in Europe. That's the language that President Trump speaks, jobs and the economy. When you talk to German CEOs, they say that. They say the fact of the matter is the last quarter in the United States, our economy grew by 3.2%. Our deregulations have really taken hold. Companies want to be a part of what's happening in the United States, and I think that Brussels could learn that lesson. I think what we've focused on is there are 16 European countries that are opposed to Nord Stream 2, and so we are standing with those 16 European countries, and it's not surprising to me that that Brussels and those who want to lead in Brussels are going to take that position.
But still, was it a surprise to you? Because it took a long time, I mean, for Weber to come out as outspoken.
Well, look, aside from you know who he is, it's not surprising that somebody who's going to go to Europe and try to be a leader in Brussels is opposed to Nord Stream 2, because I think you've got to look beyond just the German media and look at the European media. And the 16 countries within Europe are opposed. They've stood against Nord Stream 2. They think that diversification of energy is more important, and that's our position as well.
So do you personally feel closer to Manfred Weber than Angela Merkel on this?
I don't view issues like that. I don't take things personally. I kind of push policies that the U.S. feels strongly about, and so I look for advocates and friends across the aisle, whether they're you know, from the left or the right.
So this Denmark is now also delaying the project significantly, probably. Do you see the momentum gaining for resistance against Nord Stream 2?
I'll tell you what I see is I see that the more you focus on Europe, the more you focus on the European countries, then you notice that they are opposed and that they have been opposed. So anyone who hasn't been focusing across European media would maybe be surprised. But those who are looking at the issue from what does Europe want, what's best for Europe, I mean, the voice is pretty clear.
So you think it's inevitable now with the European election that being more of a focus?
I think so.
What do you think of the role of former German Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder? I mean, can you understand why somebody who used to be elected Chancellor of a free democratic country would now lobby for Vladimir Putin?
Well, look, I think, you know, we have some of those issues as well with former officials cashing in, so to speak. You know, I've stood long and hard before I even got into this job. I've written extensively about the fears of Russia, and we have seen Russia's malign activity on European soil. There are 24 Ukrainians, 24 Europeans who are in a Russian prison for 150 plus days still. I think it's outrageous.
Since the US puts America first in terms of trade, the European Union has to hold its own against China. Do you agree, or do you see the interests aligned?
Oh, I think that our interests are quite aligned. If you look at the German economy and German CEOs and German corporate culture, it's really, I think, aligned with the U.S. You really can't peel us away. I mean, the German automakers, for instance, have a lot of U.S. jobs in the South. You have, you know, companies like Siemens and Bayer, Lufthansa. They employ tens of thousands of Americans. These are companies that are intertwined with the U.S. economy. So I don't think you can pull us apart. And certainly what we hear when we talk to companies on both sides of the ocean, so to speak, that they're fearful of China. They know it's a great market. They know they have to be there. They know that this is a way to grow. But they also tell us that, you know, China steals IP. That there's no rule of law. If there's a ruling against a company from China, there's no way to kind of push back and say, can we challenge that? This is just one-sided, and I think people are realizing that this engagement strategy that we had with China, it hasn't worked. We're going to have to all be tougher.
There has been this huge conference about like more than 100 countries summing up in China for the Silk Road project, which is like $1 billion and more to invest into infrastructure. What is your perspective on that project? Is it some sort of strive for dominance, or is it just free trade?
Well, look, I think that what we have seen with China's promises going into different countries is that they don't employ a lot of people locally. What they do is they ask for a lot of visas to bring their own people over. So each country is going to have to evaluate whether or not that works for them. Certainly, as I said before, we recognize and others recognize, and certainly corporate culture recognizes that going into China is important. It's a big market. But for those who have been going into China, they're also very fearful of what happens once they're there. What I was talking about is somebody like me who's gay, who's a gay conservative, who's different. Those are the types of people that need to be more involved, and those are the types of people that I think should be empowered. It's not just the typical voices, but people who haven't been involved. Look, one of the most exciting things for me in this job is when people come to my house or come to the embassy and I say to them, have you ever been here before? And if someone says no, they've never been there, it makes me very pleased. But if I go and I find that it's the same people and I say, have you ever been here? And people say, I was here in 2013, I was here in 2014, I was here for 2 parties in 2016, or 3 events in 2017, it bothers me because I think we're speaking to the same people. And that's not my job. My job is to represent the United States, to reach new people, to reach people with the US message